Today, I'm going to show you around Fort Scratchley, which is a historical fort built in Newcastle in the 1880s and is famous for its gun firing at a Japanese submarine in World War II. But I'll tell you a little bit more about everything when we get inside. Get amongst. So here you can see all the fortification around. It was constructed in 1882 to defend from Russian Soviets. Alright, let's get our ticket. So here's the first place, the artillery store. And this is where I got my sticker and my ticket for the tour. Look at this bad boy. Destruction on wheels, look at that. This is what you would call a 40mm Bofar, a light anti-aircraft battery to defend the port against low-flying aircraft. A weapon that had rapid fire and versatility, as it could be used for anti-tank, coastal defense, and even as a ground support weapon, but was mainly used after World War II. It was a very useful weapon used by many nations. Imagine that bloody blowing your noggin off. Here's something very important to show you all. Love it or leave it, mate. I thought the middle head fortification was big. This one is even bigger. And look at the big gun over here. I'm pretty sure it's an MK V2. If you look right here, there would have been another gun placement. The two guns you're about to see are the exact guns that shot at Japanese submarines during the invasion in June 1942, during World War II. The exact names for the guns are BL 6-inch Mark V2, but the short term is MK V2. They are famous for being the only guns that fired at enemies in World War II. The attack that took place primarily targeted the BHB Steelworks, a large industrial plant that manufactures steel, and the Walsh Island shipyard to disrupt Australia's war production. The Japanese submarine fired around 34 shells towards the harbour, which was when Fort Scratchley's gunners shot back at the submarines, forcing them to retreat. The Japanese submarine commander named Kanji Machimura that survived the attack said that the gunfire from Fort Scratchley was the most accurate he encountered during his career. The primary goal was to cause fear and panic, and to force Australia to focus on coastal defence. So right behind me, you can see all these weapons, you can see the base. You think that looks cool? Look out here. So right there, you got Newcastle breakwall. And on the other side, you got Stockton breakwall. I've made about 4 or 5 videos over on that breakwall. I'll put the link up the top. But there's also an abandoned shipwreck over there. But now, we're going to continue this fortification, have a look around for another 10 minutes, and then we're going to go on the tunnel tour. Let's go. So I thought this is where you go for a tour, but it looks like you can have a little look in this bunker specifically. It's pretty short, look. My head just misses the top. Just. In 1882, Fort Scratchley was equipped with 4 80-pound rifled muzzled loading guns, and one was placed in the western barbette, which is a raised platform allowing guns to fire over a parapet, giving them a wider field of fire than a traditional gun emplacement. The 80-pounder was eventually removed in 1907. But the gun barrel was rediscovered decades later after being used as a counterweight at the Newcastle State Dockyard and was refurbished by volunteers. You don't mind if I record?
No.
I have a YouTube page. Put a history, Australian history on YouTube, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, cool.
When we had a talk in there, we'll come down the passageway around the main magazine. We'll have a talk there about the Japanese attack in 1942, and then we exit out, which is the steps that are just on the other side of that doorway there. Okay?
Yeah.
If you look up here where these rust marks here, when they put the roof on here, all those little rust marks, they're actually railroad tracks. Railroad tracks, rail tracks up on the head, so we're looking at the head of the railroad track, and then they're just concreted in between just to make the put a roof on it essentially. It only goes for a short way, but yeah, it's pretty ingenious way.
Yeah, it is. And the way the slope for the water and all that.
Yeah, it flattens out down further, but that just gives you an idea. Come here, this one.
Thank you.
These are the guns that were in here when the fort was originally completed, the stage 2. They were called a 9-inch rifled muzzle loader. Okay, so a 9-inch diameter. It would take 8 to 10 men to fire this particular gun, and they get 1 round off every 90 seconds, which is pretty good for such a gun. It used a 115 kilo projectile and a 25 kilo bag of gunpowder to fire it. And it really only had a range of about 4.3 kilometres, not very far at all. So, okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the same guns that is at the Middlehead fortifications in Sydney?
Probably yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll say probably yes,
yeah.
Because they were standard for the day. Just to show you the size of a 25 kilo bag of gunpowder, and they would have put in, it went down the barrel first because they were muzzle loaded. It loaded down the barrel first, and then the shell, projectile, it's called a Palliser shell. And because these were a rifled gun, meaning you could look down the gun and you can see that spiral that goes down the barrel, like a rifling, those little buttons that you see on the side, they would engage the rifling, and as it fed down to meet, it would go down the barrel, and as it fed up, it would spin. So when it was fired, it would come out very fast, spinning in the air. And the reason it's spun in the air is to give it stability in the air. If it didn't spin, it would start to tumble after a while.
That's amazing.
When they needed the powder to come up from the bottom, they'd call up and talk into these smoker tubes, right? There'd be a little whistle in there, get his attention out, say, send us up a couple of bags of gunpowder. So the guy down below would go to the armoury, put it in, and he'd put it in a cardboard container, trust British patients, okay? And put it in that, and then they'd pull it up from down below using the rope. The reason they did that, see how, if it was a tin bucket, it might cause a spark, which could cause it to blow up. There'd be probably powder through the floor.
Because it's gunpowder, wow.
So there you go. So they do it as much, as carefully as possible to haul that up from down below. Now you can look down there, it's about 5.2 metres to the bottom there. We can go down there later. Yeah. Come on,
Thank you, buddy.
You'll see brickwork like this throughout the fort. These were here to keep the oxygen level down here all the time. So the soldiers wouldn't get lethargic or fall asleep and that. So they kept the oxygen going down here to keep the air flowing.
I noticed that at the entrance, above the door when we came in, because I'm a bricklayer. I'm like, oh, what's that for? Is it a design or is it air ventilation?
Air ventilation.
Air ventilation.
You'll see it further down as we go down. And that way into that.
Yeah.
Well, this is our 6-inch diameter projectile. We had three of these guns, 6-inch guns, and one 8-inch gun. And the shell down on the floor there is an actual 8-inch diameter gun. Oh, shell, I should say, for the 8-inch gun. Around 200 rounds, if they'd fired out of this particular gun, around about 200 rounds, if it was starting to get wear on the rifling in the gun, those shells would come oversized. They were cast iron, so they were set aside. And once they were cast and they were to cool, they would shrink down to the size they needed, right? So a lot of times they would not shrink to the correct size they wanted. They still fit in the breech fine, but they were a little bit too wide for the barrel itself, and it would tear away the rifling, right? To just slowly wear it away, we wore it in. So after about 200 rounds, they'd have to pull the barrel off the gun, take it and put it on a boat, send it back to England to get re-rifled. And they'd put a sleeve in there, and then send it back here. That'd be a 3-year turnaround.
Yeah.
A 3-year turnaround, yeah, to do it. So.
That's a big job.
Yeah, so the markings on the wall you're looking at, that's the direction, obviously.
Yeah, the angles.
South, over there we've got north. So they would just say, turn to this direction, turn to this elevation, and when they were ready to fire, pull the lever, the gun would come up and fire, and come back down again. So, pretty good.
It's quite amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. This area here is a stand down area. If you were required to be near the guns ready to go, but you couldn't have soldiers at attention ready to fire, they were told they could come here and rest, okay? And if somebody came, they could blow a whistle and they'd be on the guns straight away. As I said before, 2 gentlemen served in the Crimean War, and known for their fortifications, was Lieutenant Colonel Sir Peter Henry Scratchley and his Major General Sir William Francis Drummond Jervois. I think that's how you say it. Jumba, something. You probably know all the move coming from Europe, Jumba. Now, they were known for their fortifications, experts at it, and essentially got the plans and everything and said, right, this is where it's going to be built. He went back to England and was unfortunately killed in a horse and cart carriage at the age of 75. But Peter was only younger, and they asked him to go to Papua New Guinea to be the High Commissioner up there in New Guinea. He said, yep, I'll do that. So he got up there. He wasn't up there very long, and on the 28th of August 1885, he contracted a very, very bad case of malaria. And the doctors up there said, this doesn't look good for him, you know, it's pretty serious. So they said, we better get him back to his wife in Melbourne. So they put him on a boat to get back to Melbourne, and on the 2nd of December 1885, he passed away off the coast of Cooktown up in Queensland. So it doesn't end there for poor old Pete. They just couldn't throw him over the side of the boat and give him a burial at sea because he was a major general pretty high up by this stage. They said, we need to get him back home. So they stripped him off and put him in a pickle barrel. Put him in a pickle barrel, like a big wine cask full with salt water, raw salts, brine, you know, to pickle.
To try and heal him.
Yeah, and to get him back to his wife. So they got him back to Melbourne. They buried him in Melbourne. But when the British found out he passed away, they said, no, he's a major general. We want him back here in England. So they dug him up again and sent him back to England. He's now buried in Charlton Cemetery in England. Yeah, in Woolwich.
Poor carcass.
Poor Pete. He was only 50 years old when he passed away.
Yeah,
so that's, to me, I reckon he was like John Cleese out of Monty Python. But not everybody knows it. Now, when the people in Newcastle found out he passed away, they petitioned the governor, wrote to the governor of New South Wales at the time, and said, can we call the fort after Peter? Yeah, because it must have been a really good bloke. So they said, yep. So that's how it got its name, Fort Scratchley, named after this bloke here.
Wow. What's it made from again?
It's made out of paper, rubber and asphalt.
Paper, rubber and asphalt.
Yeah, wow. Spread out as a mix there on the floor.
Wow.
Pretty dirty way of
It
doing
is, yeah. Paper, rubber and asphalt floor.
Paper, rubber and asphalt.
Wow. Wow, look at that.
Okay, 2 guns are at the front gate. There's 4 here originally. So this is a barrel weighs about 5 tonne, and carriage is about 4.5 tonne. The carriage here is a replica. The original were taken out in 1898, and we don't know where they got. They probably chopped up a firewood. But we lost these guns. It uses a 5 kilogram bag of gunpowder. It has to be fired out through that window, or the embrasure that I just spoke about. To load it, it's got to be pulled back in here to load it. So they would get a couple of these, one on the other side, which is up there, and they would haul down on the back of that to lift that top bit of the carriage up. And at the front of this top carriage, there's a roller. Yeah. When they got it up on the rollers, they would then use a rope there to pull that barrel and everything come back to these stops here. They would then get the projectile, and they put the projectile in. Because these are rifled, again, got the rifle in, they would push that down until it met up with the gunpowder down the back. Once they were happy with that, they would get a friction tube. A friction tube, which is a brass tube filled with gunpowder. Attach to it, get the order to fire, they pull the lanyard, this bar or ring would come flying out and ignite the gunpowder in the tube. The friction tube would be pushed down through the hole there, and it would pierce the bag of gunpowder that's in the back there, okay? But push that through and pierce the bag. The lanyard, like this, lanyard would be attached to the top of it, the ring, and then we give it the order, and pull that out, and boom, away it would go, mate. If you look there in that cavity, all the guns are coming down through that cavity there.
Oh wow.
As you can see that,
they all come through
all
there.
come down through there. And you can see that's the outside one of the western barbette. Yeah. That's firing a 600 green bag of gunpowder there.
That's the toys that they use to bring the weapons down,
It took us about 2 weeks to do it. But now we've taken back in the day. Placement according to a 1.5 inch quick firing Nordenfeldt gun, developed in 1894 by a Swedish company called Nordenfeldt. To fire this, it has to be pulled forward out through the window there. But whereas all the guns I've showed you so far, they would take 8 to 10 men to fire, and they get 1 round off every 90 seconds. You'll get 3 men to operate this one. 3 men, and they can get 20 to 25 rounds a minute out of it. Yeah. So to fire this one, this arm here on the side would come into a 12 o'clock position, lift up, and that would open the breech up. Okay, so you open that up, another soldier would put a round in, bloom, and then as soon as the arm went down, it would fire. But if they wanted to do a time shot, say there was I think there's a boat coming in out there at the moment, and I'm sitting here, I could have it already. I'd move this little one up to a different position, open the breech, put the round in, and when the arm came down, it wouldn't fire straight away, right? It could be fired with a trigger. Boom. But this is the original gun that was here. The serial number was 4095 written on the top here, and we got it back and refurbished. We do fire it. It does fire. Only black rounds out of it, but that's enough.
Cool.
So they make them wear calico shirt and pants. They also make them wear a hat down while they're down here, because while they're working down here, every officer had to be saluted. And you couldn't salute an officer unless you had a hat on. So they make them wear a hat.
Interesting.
So that's the idea of that. So remember the bucket that was up top that I showed you? The bucket was? You can look up there and see the bottom of the bucket if you want to. This is where that is. So this is where the first coal is. That patch that's there. We have coal there for we show the kids. Kids the coal. And that's just coal out of this coal mine from back in the. So that patch there is where the university turned up back in the 1980s something, and they put a camera down there. If they dug it up and found it had been filled in with rocks and rubble and timbers and all that sort of stuff, then they patched it back over. But
Okay.
that's the very first coal mine in Australia.
Wow. Very first coal mine in Australia.
Yeah.
That's a
The
quite.
first shipment went out of here of 99 tonnes
Look at that.
of coal, and it went to Bengal in India. That was the first shipment out.
Please feel free to pause the video and read what is on the screen, as the information about these guns is very fascinating, especially when it comes to the revolver and its owner, Lieutenant Colonel William Hopkins James. That's the 1853, the pistol percussion Enfield. Here you got an 1860 rifle. You got the blade length right on the end of the blade, which is 22 inch, that goes on the end of their gun for stabbing. They're doing a good job. Not sure about the hairstyle. Well, that's my tour. I hope you guys enjoyed. We have part 1 and we have part 2. Get amongst them. Thanks again for the tour, mate.
No worries.
I'm just going to move my car and I'll be back.
Yep, all right.